Part 1, The Watchers in the Void. The Council's concern. The Galactic Confederation of Advanced Species had been watching Earth for 3 centuries, and frankly, they were getting bored. Admiral Marcus Sterling had no idea his morning coffee routine was being scrutinized by beings whose technology made human achievements look like finger painting, but that was probably for the best. He had enough problems running the Terran Defense Fleet without worrying about cosmic peeping toms. In the depths of space, aboard a vessel that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, the Confederation Council was having what could generously be called a heated discussion. The Zephyrians, who resembled angry jellyfish made of pure thought, were particularly vocal about the human problem. "These bipedal creatures are dangerous," pulsed Council member Vortak, his translucent form rippling with agitation. "They've weaponized everything from splitting atoms to throwing rocks really, really hard. They even turned their entertainment into competitions of violence." The human question. The Council chamber, a space that defied physics and several laws of interior decorating, hummed with translated voices from dozens of species. The Zarathi, crystalline beings who communicated through harmonic frequencies, chimed in with their concerns. "Our analysis shows they possess an unprecedented capacity for destruction," resonated Prime Facet Zelen. "In their brief existence, they've developed weapons capable of rendering their planet uninhabitable. Multiple times." Admiral Sterling, meanwhile, was dealing with his own council meeting aboard the TNS Endeavour, humanity's flagship. He stood before a holographic display showing the Outer Rim colonies, completely unaware that his every word was being recorded by invisible observers. "Lieutenant Blackwood, what's the status on the new settlement ships?" Sterling asked, his weathered face reflecting years of service protecting human interests across the galaxy. Lieutenant Nora Blackwood, a sharp-eyed woman with prematurely gray hair from too many crisis management situations, pulled up the relevant data. "Sir, the civilian transports are ahead of schedule. Families are volunteering faster than we can process applications. People are eager to start fresh on new worlds." Misunderstood intentions. What the aliens interpreted as aggressive expansion, humans saw as hope for the future. What looked like military buildup was actually protection for farmers, teachers, and children heading to distant stars with nothing but dreams and determination. The Confederation surveillance network had been monitoring human communications for decades, but they focused on military channels, government broadcasts, and news reports. They missed the personal messages, the family videos, the children's drawings sent from Earth to new colonies showing stick figures holding hands under alien suns. Captain Jake Morrison, Sterling's right-hand man and a veteran of the Outer Rim patrols, leaned against the tactical display. "Admiral, the families on Kepler 442b are reporting strange readings on their long-range sensors. Nothing threatening, just unusual energy signatures." Sterling frowned. "Unusual how?" "Consistent patterns, almost like they're being observed. The colonists are nervous, but they're not asking for evacuation. They want to understand what they're seeing." The observers debate. Back in the Confederation Council, the debate was reaching a fever pitch. The Manthari, insectoid beings with compound eyes that could see across multiple spectrums, clicked their mandibles in disagreement. "The human response to the unknown is curiosity, not fear," observed Queen Mind Thessera. "When faced with our surveillance signatures, they investigate rather than flee. This is unexpected behavior for a primitive species." Vortak's jellyfish form pulsed with frustration. "Curiosity killed the Earth feline, as their saying goes. Their desire to understand everything makes them dangerous. They don't respect boundaries or accept that some knowledge should remain forbidden." The Council's leader, ancient being known only as the Arbiter, had remained silent throughout the debate. The Arbiter's species had evolved beyond physical form eons ago, existing as pure consciousness that could inhabit any matter at will. Currently, they appeared as a swirling vortex of silver light. "Perhaps," the Arbiter's voice resonated through every mind present, "we should consider direct contact. Our observations, extensive as they are, may be incomplete. The decision point. The suggestion sent ripples of concern through the assembled council. Direct contact with a species deemed potentially dangerous was against every protocol in the Confederation Handbook, which was roughly the size of a small moon and significantly more boring. With respect, Arbiter, chimed Zelen, the humans have demonstrated aggressive tendencies toward anything they perceive as a threat. First contact could result in immediate hostilities. Admiral Sterling, still unaware of the cosmic debate surrounding his species, was making decisions that would prove the aliens both right and wrong. He turned to Lieutenant Blackwood with new orders. Nora, I want you to organize a peaceful contact protocol. If there are unknown intelligences observing our colonies, we need to be ready to communicate, not fight. Have the diplomatic corps work with the linguistics department. I want translation algorithms, peaceful greeting protocols, and cultural exchange procedures ready within the month. Blackwood raised an eyebrow. Sir, are you expecting first contact? I'm expecting the unexpected, Sterling replied. And I'd rather extend a hand than raise a fist when the time comes. The Watcher's surprise. The Confederation surveillance network immediately picked up these orders, and the Council fell into stunned silence. Here was a military commander of a supposedly violent species, preparing for peaceful contact with unknown aliens. It didn't fit their models or predictions. Vorthak's form flickered with confusion. This is not the response we anticipated. Our psychological profile suggested humans would prepare for war, not diplomacy. Perhaps, the Arbiter mused, our psychological profiles are incomplete. The debate that followed would reshape the Confederation's understanding of humanity, but it was just the beginning. Aboard the Endeavour, Admiral Sterling finished his coffee and stared out at the stars, wondering what other intelligences might be looking back at him. He had no idea that his next decisions would determine whether humanity joined the galactic community as friends or faced them as enemies. The Watchers in the Void had been expecting monsters, but they were beginning to see something far more complex and potentially more dangerous than simple aggression, a species capable of choosing between violence and mercy, and wise enough to prefer the latter when possible. The stage was set for a first contact that would challenge everything both sides thought they knew about the nature of civilization itself. Part 2, First Blood and First Mercy. The strike comes without warning. Colonel James Harrison was reviewing tactical reports when the first wave hit New Geneva Colony. The Confederation Council had decided that humanity needed a lesson in galactic hierarchy, and they chose to deliver it with plasma cannons and quantum disruptors. What they didn't expect was how humans would respond to unprovoked aggression. The attack came at dawn, local time. Families were having breakfast, children were walking to school, and farmers were tending their crops when the sky lit up with energy beams. The Confederation fleet, led by the militant Korthax Empire, had positioned themselves in the outer system for what they assumed would be a quick demonstration of superior firepower. "This is Colonel Harrison to all units," James barked into his communicator as alarms screamed across the military compound. "We are under attack by unknown forces. Initiate emergency protocols and prepare for combat operations." The defense begins. Medic Rachel Torres was pulling wounded civilians from collapsed buildings when the second wave of attacks began. She had served in 3 different conflicts, but nothing prepared her for the precision of these weapons. The attackers were surgical in their strikes, targeting infrastructure and military installations while seemingly avoiding residential areas. "They're not trying to kill everyone," she called out to the rescue teams. "These hits are calculated. They want to disable us, not exterminate us." Pilot Derek Walsh received the scramble order just as his fighter squadron was being briefed on the unknown enemy. The alien ships were unlike anything in human databases, sleek vessels that moved through space with impossible grace and fired weapons that bent the laws of physics. "All pilots, this is Flight Leader Walsh," Derek announced over the comm, "we're facing superior technology, but we've got something they don't expect. We're going to show them what human ingenuity looks like." The unexpected capture. The first alien prisoner was captured when pilot Walsh managed to disable a reconnaissance craft using an electromagnetic pulse device of his own design. The alien ship crashed into the colony's outskirts, and rescue teams reached it before the pilot could activate what appeared to be a self-destruct mechanism. Colonel Harrison stood over the alien prisoner in the makeshift holding facility, studying the creature that had tried to destroy his colony. The being was roughly humanoid but covered in chitinous plates that shifted color with its emotions. Currently, those plates were a deep purple that the translation software interpreted as fear mixed with confusion. "It's injured," Medic Torres reported, running her scanner over the alien's form. "Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and what looks like severe trauma to its primary nervous system." Harrison nodded grimly. "Treat its wounds." The alien prisoner, whose name translated to something like "swift death from above," but who the humans started calling Smith for simplicity, couldn't understand what was happening. According to every briefing from the Confederation command, humans were violent savages who showed no mercy to enemies. The medical paradox. Rachel Torres worked for 6 hours straight to save Smith's life, using techniques and medicines the alien had never seen. The Confederation's medical technology was far advanced, but it was based on entirely different biological principles. Human medicine, crude as it appeared, was surprisingly effective on the alien's physiology. "Why are you healing me?" Smith finally asked through the translation device, its color plates shifting to a confused yellow-green. "Because you're hurt," Rachel replied simply, adjusting the foredrip that was keeping the alien alive. "It's what we do." Smith's plates flickered rapidly between colors. In its species, the concept of healing an enemy was not just foreign, it was incomprehensible. Enemies were destroyed or they destroyed you. There was no middle ground, no mercy, no healing. "Your species attacked our colony," Colonel Harrison said, entering the medical bay. "You killed 17 of our people and wounded hundreds more. By all rights, I should execute you as a war criminal." Smith's plates went deep black, the color of acceptance of death. "But we're not going to do that," Harrison continued. "We're going to heal you, and then we're going to talk." The interrogation that changed everything. The conversation that followed lasted for days and fundamentally altered both species' understanding of warfare and civilization. Smith, whose real name was approximately 47 syllables long and sounded like someone gargling gravel, had been a soldier in the Korthax Empire for most of its adult life. "Your response makes no tactical sense," Smith told Harrison during one of their sessions. "By showing mercy to prisoners, you reveal weakness. You invite further attacks." Harrison leaned back in his chair, studying the alien whose color plates had gradually shifted from fear black to curious orange over the course of their talks. "Tell me, Smith, in all your battles with other species, how many enemies became allies after you showed them mercy?" The alien's plates flickered. "Enemies do not become allies. Enemies remain enemies until they are destroyed." "That's where you're wrong," Harrison said quietly. 3 years ago, we had a conflict with the Martian separatists. Brutal fighting, thousands dead on both sides. Today, some of my best officers are former separatists who joined up after we showed mercy to prisoners and worked out a peaceful solution. The revelation spreads. Word of humanity's treatment of alien prisoners spread through both human and Confederation networks. Aboard the human ships, crews debated the wisdom of showing mercy to beings who had attacked without provocation. In the Confederation Council chambers, the debate was even more intense. "Impossible," pulsed Vorthak, the jellyfish-like Zephyrian who had argued for humanity's destruction. "No species shows mercy to those who attack them. It violates every principle of survival." But the reports were undeniable. Human medical personnel were working around the clock to save alien lives. Human military commanders were treating prisoners according to something called the Geneva Conventions, a set of rules about warfare that the Confederation had never encountered. Prime Facet Zelen of the Zarathi resonated with confusion. They have rules for war? They limit their own effectiveness in combat for the sake of, what? Abstract moral principles. The prisoner's choice. Smith faced a choice that no Korthax had ever faced before. The humans were offering to return the alien to its people, healed and unharmed, in exchange for a simple message to the Confederation leadership. They wanted to talk, not fight. "You would release me?" Smith asked, plates cycling through several colors that the translation software couldn't identify. "You would trust me to carry your message?" Colonel Harrison nodded. "We're trusting you to tell the truth about how we treated you. Nothing more, nothing less." Medic Torres approached with Smith's final medical report. "You're fully healed," she told the alien. "Better than you were before the crash, actually. We corrected some genetic defects your people's medicine hadn't addressed." Smith's plates turned a brilliant gold, a color none of the humans had seen before. Later, they would learn it represented a concept that didn't exist in human language but roughly translated to profound gratitude mixed with existential confusion. The message returns. When Smith returned to the Confederation fleet, the alien's testimony created chaos in the command structure. Here was a soldier, trained from birth to see enemies as targets to be destroyed, speaking of human mercy and medical care that surpassed Confederation standards. "They could have tortured me for information," Smith reported to the fleet commander. "They could have executed me as revenge for our attack. Instead, they healed me and asked only that I tell you the truth about their intentions." The fleet commander, a massive creature called General Korthak whose species had conquered 17 different worlds, listened to the report with growing disbelief. "You are saying they deliberately weakened their position by showing mercy to an enemy?" "I am saying," Smith replied carefully, "that they may not see us as enemies. They see us as potential allies who made a mistake." The revelation that humans distinguished between enemies and those who could become friends was about to reshape the entire Galactic Confederation's approach to warfare, diplomacy, and civilization itself. Back on New Geneva Colony, Colonel Harrison stood among the rebuilt structures and healing wounded, knowing that humanity's response to first contact would echo through the stars for generations to come. They had chosen mercy over vengeance, and that choice was about to change everything. Part 3. The Prisoner's Tale. The Diplomatic Revolution. Ambassador Diana Cross had been preparing for first contact her entire career, but nothing in her training covered what to do when the aliens attacked first and then became confused by human mercy. She stood in the newly constructed diplomatic facility on New Geneva Colony, watching as more alien prisoners were brought in for what humans called cultural exchange interviews, and what the Confederation was calling unprecedented psychological warfare. Smith, the first captured alien, had become an unofficial translator and mediator between the species. The former warrior's color plates now displayed patterns that human scientists were beginning to recognize as emotional states more complex than simple fear or anger. "Ambassador Cross," Smith said, its plates shifting to respectful blue-green, "my people have sent more representatives to understand what you call mercy. They do not understand this concept." Diana smiled, a gesture that had initially terrified the aliens until they realized it indicated friendliness rather than aggression. "That's why we're here, Smith. To help each other understand." The prisoner interviews. Security Chief Ben Carter had the unusual job of guarding prisoners who were increasingly reluctant to leave. The holding facility had been transformed into something resembling a cultural center, with aliens and humans sharing meals, playing games, and attempting to understand each other's languages. "It's the strangest thing," Carter reported to Ambassador Cross. Prisoner Zilthak actually asked if it could extend its stay. Apparently, it wants to study human, emotional regulation techniques for its thesis on interspecies psychology. Translator Lucy Hoffman had been working overtime to develop communication protocols between the species. What she discovered was that the Confederation languages had no words for concepts like forgiveness, rehabilitation, or mercy toward enemies. "It's not just that they don't practice mercy," Lucy explained to the diplomatic team. "They literally cannot conceive of it. In their languages, there are only words for ally, enemy, and resource to be exploited. The idea that an enemy could become an ally through compassionate treatment is linguistically impossible for them to express. The confession sessions. The breakthrough came when Ambassador Cross suggested what she called confession sessions, voluntary meetings where aliens could speak freely about their experiences with human captivity. What emerged was a picture of a galactic civilization built on fear, domination, and the assumption that mercy was weakness. Prisoner Vex 9, a crystalline being from the Zarathi collective, resonated with frequencies that the translation software interpreted as deep confusion mixed with gratitude. In my 400 years of existence, Vex 9 communicated, no enemy has ever shown concern for my well-being. When your medic Torres treated my fractured crystal matrix, she worked for 16 hours straight. Why? Because you were in pain, Torres replied simply. And because we could help. Vex 9's crystal form pulsed with colors that had no translation. Pain is weakness. Weakness should be eliminated. This is fundamental law of survival. Maybe, Ambassador Cross interjected gently, but pain is also information. It tells us something is wrong and needs fixing. We don't eliminate pain by eliminating the being in pain. We eliminate pain by healing what's broken. The psychological breakthrough. Dr. Patricia Wells, the colony's chief psychologist, had been studying the alien prisoners' responses to human compassion. What she found challenged everything the Confederation thought they knew about interspecies relations. They're suffering from what we might call compassion shock, Wells explained to the diplomatic team. Their entire civilization is built on the premise that the universe is hostile and that survival requires constant vigilance against enemies. The idea that someone might help them without expecting something in return is causing genuine psychological trauma. Prisoner Kek 7, a Manthari warrior whose species resembled oversized praying mantises, had been the most aggressive of the captured aliens. Now it sat in the colony's garden, watching human children play with a fascination that bordered on obsession. The small humans, Kek 7 clicked to Ambassador Cross, they show no fear of me. They offered me flowers. In my culture, flowers are given only to the dead. What does this mean? It means they see you as a friend, Cross replied. Children are excellent judges of character. They see past the surface to who you really are. Kek 7's compound eyes shifted to watch a group of children playing a game that involved sharing toys and taking turns. Friends, it repeated, testing the word. This is new concept for Manthari. We have hive mates and enemies. Nothing between. The cultural exchange. What began as prisoner interrogation evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history, voluntary cultural exchange between species that had been at war hours earlier. The aliens were learning human concepts like cooperation, empathy, and peaceful conflict resolution, while humans were gaining insight into technologies and philosophies that spanned millennia. Lucy Hoffman had been working with Smith to develop a basic friendship protocol that could be transmitted to the Confederation fleet. The challenge was explaining concepts that didn't exist in alien languages using terms they could understand. Perhaps, Smith suggested, its plates showing what humans had learned indicated deep thought, we should demonstrate rather than explain. Your species shows mercy through action, not words. Ambassador Cross agreed. What kind of demonstration did you have in mind? Release all prisoners, Smith replied, causing several humans to gasp. Send us back to our fleets with medicine, food, and technology that could help our people. Show the Confederation that mercy is not weakness but strength. The dangerous proposal. Security Chief Carter was the first to object. Ambassador, with respect, that's insane. These prisoners are our only leverage. If we release them, we lose any negotiating power we might have. Do we? Cross asked. Or do we gain something more valuable than leverage? The debate that followed split the colony's leadership. Some saw the proposal as naive idealism that would get them all killed. Others saw it as humanity's chance to prove that there was a better way to conduct interspecies relations. Dr. Wells supported the proposal from a psychological standpoint. These beings have never experienced unconditional kindness. The impact of such a gesture could fundamentally alter their worldview and, by extension, their entire civilization's approach to foreign relations. Prisoner Vex-9 had been listening to the debate through the translation network. If you release us, the crystalline being resonated, many in Confederation will see this as trick. They will assume you are weak or planning deception. But not all of them, Ambassador Cross replied. Some will see it as an opportunity to try something new. The vote. The decision ultimately came down to a colony-wide vote. Every human on New Geneva, from the youngest child to the oldest colonist, had a say in whether to release the alien prisoners as a gesture of good faith. The vote was closer than anyone expected, 52% in favor of release, 48% against. The narrow margin reflected the genuine fear that showing mercy to attackers might invite further aggression. Ambassador Cross addressed the colony after the vote. "We've chosen to take the harder path," she said. "Mercy is never easy, and it's never guaranteed to work. But if we want to change how the galaxy conducts itself, we have to be willing to change first." The preparation. The aliens were given a choice: return to their fleets immediately or stay longer to learn more about human culture. To everyone's surprise, most chose to stay. They wanted to understand the principles behind human mercy before attempting to explain it to their own people. Smith had become the unofficial leader of the alien group. "We must prepare carefully," it told Ambassador Cross. "Confederation leadership will be suspicious of any dramatic change in our reports. We need evidence, not just testimony." The next few days were spent creating a comprehensive record of human-alien interactions. Video recordings, medical reports, cultural exchange documents, and personal testimonies from both species were compiled into what became known as the Mercy Protocol. As the aliens prepared to return to their fleets, carrying with them concepts that could reshape galactic civilization, Ambassador Cross wondered if humanity had just made the greatest diplomatic breakthrough in history or the most dangerous mistake. The answer would come soon enough, as the Confederation Council prepared to debate whether these strange beings called humans were worthy of survival or too dangerous to live. The prisoner's tale was about to become the foundation for a new kind of interstellar diplomacy, one based on understanding rather than fear, cooperation rather than domination, and mercy rather than might. Part 4, The Council Divided. The evidence arrives. General Victor Kane stood in the war room of Earth's Defense Headquarters, watching as the most unusual intelligence reports in human history scrolled across the holographic displays. The alien prisoners had returned to their fleets carrying evidence of human mercy, and the Confederation's response was tearing their civilization apart. "Sir," Intelligence Officer Nina Reed announced, "we're intercepting massive communication traffic between Confederation ships. Their command structure appears to be in complete chaos." Captain Troy Mitchell, Kane's tactical advisor, pulled up the translated communications. "General, some of their fleets are requesting permission to withdraw from human space. Others are demanding immediate reinforcement for a full-scale assault. They can't agree on whether we're the greatest threat they've ever faced or potential allies." Kane studied the reports with the eye of a soldier who had spent 30 years learning to read enemy intentions. What he saw defied every principle of military psychology he'd ever learned. The Confederation Crisis. Aboard the Confederation flagship, the Council of Species was experiencing something unprecedented in their 10,000-year history, a complete breakdown of consensus. The testimony of returned prisoners had split the Council into 3 distinct factions, each with fundamentally different interpretations of human behavior. Vorthak, the Zephyrian Council member who had originally pushed for humanity's destruction, pulsed with angry red frequencies. "This is obviously a deception," it declared to the assembled representatives. "No species shows mercy to attackers unless they are planning a more devastating counterattack. The humans are lulling us into complacency." Prime Facet Zelen of the Zarathi Collective resonated with uncertainty. "The evidence suggests otherwise," it chimed. Our returned scouts show genuine psychological changes. They have been exposed to concepts that do not exist in our databases. This appears to be authentic cultural behavior, not deception. The third faction was led by an unexpected voice, Queen Mine Thessera of the Manthari, whose species had been among the most militaristic in the Confederation. I have reviewed the testimony of warrior Kek 7, she clicked through the translation matrix. Its report describes experiences that no Manthari has ever had. Children showed it kindness without fear. This is not deception. This is revolution. The intelligence war. Back on Earth, General Kane was coordinating with intelligence agencies across human space to understand the full scope of the Confederation's internal conflict. What they discovered was a galactic civilization on the brink of civil war, all because of humanity's decision to show mercy to prisoners. Nina Reed had been monitoring Confederation communications around the clock. "General, we're seeing massive troop movements within their territory. Some species are withdrawing their fleets from our borders, but others are massing for what looks like a coordinated assault." "Which species are which?" Kane asked, studying the tactical displays. "That's the interesting part," Reed replied. "It's not following species lines. Individual fleets within the same species are choosing different sides. We're seeing Korthax ships joining Zarathi formations, Manthari vessels protecting Zephyrian transports. Their entire alliance structure is breaking down." Captain Mitchell highlighted the most concerning developments. "Sir, the militant faction is being led by someone called Supreme Commander Vorthak 9. Our linguistic analysis suggests this is not the same Vorthak from the Council, but a military leader who shares the name and philosophy. The peaceful revolution." Meanwhile, the faction advocating for peaceful contact with humanity was growing in unexpected ways. Smith, the first alien prisoner, had become something of a celebrity among Confederation species as recordings of its testimony spread through their networks. The alien's message was simple but revolutionary: humans possess technology of heart that exceeds technology of war. They can heal what is broken, including bonds between enemies. This is power beyond our comprehension. Dr. Patricia Wells had been analyzing the psychological profiles of returned alien prisoners. "General," she reported to Kane via secure communication, "we're seeing something unprecedented. These aliens are experiencing what psychologists call post-traumatic growth. Exposure to human compassion hasn't just changed their opinions about us, it's fundamentally altered their brain chemistry." The implications were staggering. Human mercy wasn't just affecting alien politics, it was literally rewiring alien minds at the neurological level. The moderate voice. The Arbiter, ancient leader of the Confederation Council, had remained silent during the initial debates, but the growing crisis forced them to take action. Calling for an emergency session, the Arbiter addressed the Council with words that would be remembered for millennia. In 10,000 years of Confederation history, the Arbiter's consciousness rippled through the Assembly. "We have encountered 1,247 sentient species. All have followed predictable patterns: they seek resources, territory, and dominance. All except one." The Council chamber fell silent as the Arbiter continued. "Humanity demonstrates behavior patterns that violate our fundamental understanding of evolution, survival, and civilization. They sacrifice their own advantage to help others. They heal their enemies. They choose cooperation over domination when both options are available." Vorthak interrupted with agitated pulses. "Exactly why they must be destroyed before their madness spreads." Or, the Arbiter responded, "Exactly why they must be understood before our own madness destroys us all." The military assessment. General Kane convened an emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council to assess the unprecedented situation. For the first time in human history, an alien civilization was tearing itself apart because of human moral choices rather than human military actions. "The tactical situation is unlike anything we've trained for," Captain Mitchell reported. "We have multiple alien factions positioning for different types of engagement. Some want to surrender to us, others want to ally with us, and others want to destroy us before we can corrupt more of their people. Admiral Sterling, attending via holographic link from the Outer Rim, added his perspective. Sir, our colonies are reporting alien ships requesting permission to land for cultural exchange purposes. We have former enemies asking to become refugees in human space because they want to live in a civilization based on mercy rather than fear. Nina Reed presented the intelligence community's assessment. General, we estimate that approximately 30% of Confederation forces now support peaceful contact, 40% remain neutral pending further developments, and 30% are committed to our destruction. The situation is completely unstable. The prisoners return. The most dramatic development came when Smith requested permission to return to human space, not as a prisoner but as an ambassador. The alien's message to General Kane was transmitted through diplomatic channels and changed everything. General Kane, Smith's translated voice said, I speak not as conquered enemy but as grateful friend. My people have word for what humans showed me. In ancient Manthari, it is Thalix Gorveth, which means strength that heals rather than harms. We believed this was myth, legend from before our species learned to make war. Humans have made myth into reality. The alien ambassador continued. Confederation cannot survive contact with humanity unchanged. We must choose, evolve or die. Many choose evolution. They come to you seeking not conquest but guidance. How do you teach galaxy to choose mercy over might? The impossible decision. General Kane faced a decision no military commander in history had ever confronted: how to win a war by teaching the enemy to be better than themselves. The Confederation's militant faction was preparing for total war, while the peaceful faction was essentially asking humanity to lead a galactic cultural revolution. Sir, Captain Mitchell said quietly, we're not just fighting for our survival anymore. We're fighting for the soul of galactic civilization. Kane looked out at the stars, knowing that human choices in the next few days would determine whether the galaxy remained trapped in endless cycles of violence or evolved into something unprecedented, a civilization based on mercy, cooperation, and the radical idea that enemies could become friends. The Council remained divided, but the division itself was changing everything. For the first time in Confederation history, the possibility of a different way of living was spreading from species to species, carried by former prisoners who had experienced something their languages couldn't even describe. Humanity had wanted to join the galactic community. Instead, they were about to transform it completely, one act of mercy at a time. The next phase of first contact would determine whether that transformation came through peaceful evolution or devastating war, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same.